Bun găsit, dragii mei, suntem din nou față în față. În această emisiune am un invitat special, un american, un avocat, care și-a dedicat viața într-o slujire deosebită, specială și pentru oameni speciali. Este vorba despre Jerry Skinner, este avocat și misiunea în România se numește RHM-RO și se ocupă de tinerii handicapați și oamenii cu dizabilități. Voi avea acest dialog în limba engleză, dar pentru început am vrut să știți, cei care ne urmăriți normal, regulat, că această emisiune va fi în limba engleză. De asemenea, aș vrea să vă invit pe cei care aveți în familie persoane cu dizabilități sau cunoașteți pe cineva care au asemenea situații, să urmărească acest program. Va fi în limba engleză, dar va fi cu un impact major și este spre gloria lui Dumnezeu și spre binele semenilor noștri. Acum vom începe dialogul nostru cu invitatul din această zi, avocatul Jerry Skinner, și îi spunem bun venit. Jerry, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It is a privilege to be with you and to share about God's miracles, God's work in your life. And because you and I have met briefly some time ago at an event organized by my friend Stephen Bonica, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. So I know you're an attorney, and I know you have a heart for the handicapped people. Tell us a little bit about your journey as an attorney, turning missionary.
I practice everywhere. I've practiced on every continent, I think, except Antarctica. And I got around and saw things a lot. Pretty early on in my career, I was exposed to some people who were expatriates, fled from Romania and settled in Sweden. And they had become associated with the Swedish Lutheran Church, which had missions to people with disabilities in Romania. As time went on, they convinced me that I needed to go with them and see. That didn't seem that unusual to me because I was pretty open about my own life, and I had my young years were pretty much living like an orphan. Even though I wasn't strictly an orphan, I was pretty much loose in the street for that time. And my parents eventually split up, and I didn't see my dad much at all. But when I saw him, he forced me to watch Perry Mason on the television every Thursday night. And I got the idea that maybe if I became an attorney, my dad would finally approve of me. Well, that never happened. But fortunately, my father is truly in heaven and not on earth, and he approves of me, which turned out to be good. But I did have that background of sort of being on my own. And when I went to Romania, the first thing that struck me was the number of children in the streets, in the sewers, in the parks, in the train station, abandoned, some of them utilized to raise funds. And I had been practicing law up until that time, almost entirely in litigation that related to air crashes. So I was familiar with the tragedy of losing children, large numbers of children, and seeing these kids, it was like they were slowly going to the same fate. Was in Constanța on the Black Sea, and we went the first time in 1997. Actually, I had been working as a litigator in the Pan Am 103 case. That lasted for 15 years after the initial event in 1981. And when we concluded that, that was about the same time that the revolution occurred in Romania, and shortly thereafter I got involved. So it was still pretty rough in Romania at the time. Security was questionable, and I went over and I saw this and I witnessed this, and I related it to my job as a litigator, because what I did in litigation was I tried to provide something that had been lost that could never be replaced. It was already too late. So what I did is I gave people as much personal service as well as professional service as I could, and I tried at that point in time to present them all a picture of Jesus Christ as we went through. That turned out to be very effective for some people not, but most of the people appreciated having an attorney who would fight for them in the courtroom on his feet, but would sit down and pray with them when it was after.
That is amazing. How did your relationship with God begin? As an attorney, you were very busy, very involved. When did you meet Christ and how?
Well, I met Christ when I was a teenager. I was 17. My father died when I was 17, and he had been drinking so much that he poisoned himself, and literally his body gave out. And at the same time, I was dating a young woman whom I have now been married to for 51 years.
Wow, God bless you.
And her father and her family were dedicated Christians, and the story was, if you want to hang around with my daughter, you'd better come to church and hear about Jesus Christ. I did, and after a while I went to a youth event that was being held, and Psalm 34:6, this poor man cried out, and the Lord heard him and delivered him from all of his troubles. That's what God's done for me several times in my life, but initially, in that first instance, accepting Christ came through that message.
How was your walk with the Lord after that? So you were still a young man at 17.
Yes.
You had your life ahead of you. Obviously, you were in love and you wanted to start a family, and that was a given. But then your career, you went to school, and then your career started. So share with us how that continued.
Well, God basically brought me and prepared me through all of the transitions that took place, becoming a young adult, becoming a professional, and getting involved with various types of cases, and being part of the family that I married into. He prepared me every step of the way. I reached a point most people about between 35 and 40, they have a change that takes place. Their life you begin to lose capability instead of gaining capability. And I had some issues that I had not dealt with really, and not opened all the doors to Christ. And I had to open the doors at that point. That increased my awareness, my sense of His presence, my dedication. And as I look back over the things at that time that had occurred in my life, starting with childhood, He was preparing me to do something. And then I'll have to, you'll probably appreciate this. When people ask me how I got into the aviation litigation, I say drugs and alcohol. There was a lawyer in my firm who would go out at lunch and mix cocaine with martinis. And he had a huge air crash case involving an Air Canada flight that ended up diverting to Cincinnati, and it had a fire on board, and when they opened the door to try to rescue the people, the fire killed everybody on the plane. This attorney was handling that case. He would go out at lunch and indulge, and when he came back, he would be a different person. Ultimately, he had several seizures in our office, and the senior partner let him go and came to me and said, "You're just a kid. You just started out in this, but would you like this airline case?" I said, "Yeah, I loved airplanes, always loved airplanes." And I said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And I didn't realize at the time how big a role my faith was going to play, because these people have always lost everything and it's hopeless. And the only thing they want is to have the person back, and they can't. So God put me in a place where I was really needed. And that worked itself out to the point where I began to meet these people that I had mentioned, and met the gentleman his name was Bogdan, and he introduced me to Constanța, and I felt a kinship to the kids. I noticed, first of all, that there were so many of them, but then I began to notice that almost all of them had significant deficits and disabilities and had learned to live with them. So it was they kind of fit in the mold. They gave me somebody to care about and to work on, that there was only so much you could do to help them unless you could repair their bodies or restore their minds. And that wasn't my job, that was Christ's job. And so that's kind of how it all came together in one place. There was a lot I worked on the Pan Am bombing, Northwest 255 in Detroit, TWA 800 off the east coast of the United States, Egypt Air 990, which was a suicide, and I had to go to Cairo to try that case. That was an adventure in itself. But all of these cases prepared me to deal, frankly, with the tragedies that I was going to come across in Romania, and I just left it open. When I went there, I asked God, I said, if I've meant to do something about this and help, you're going to have to show me. Well, I learned a long time ago that when you say to God, do you still love me? You're going to have to show me. Things like that, you might want to think about what kind of response you're going to get from him, because he's all of a sudden began to move people into places and things and events that I was able to establish this ministry and grow. I saw people around me that went over there and saw it, and they started things, and they tried to do everything at once, and they burned out, and it went away. We've now been in Constanța for almost 30 years, and we grew slowly. God continued to make people and resources available, and it just has grown from there through a series of decisions where we are now, which is beginning to reach out to authorities and stir the pot a little bit and try to get them to take some responsibility for what they can do for their own people.
And that's something that we're going to be talking about in more detail, because I know there is a conference coming up where your mission is going to offer an opportunity for different people to get involved and to be part of what you're doing. But before we get there, I'd like to come back to your professional work. You've been involved in you mentioned a couple of them. You've been involved in some very high profile cases and dangerous, I could say, situations. How were you able to manage that from a personal and professional perspective?
I guess I would first comment that I don't seem to have a problem doing that. I never really have. I knew I had a tough job just representing the people that I represented, dealing with the cases, the technical issues. I've spent 40 years educating myself every time an accident happens or there's an attack on an aircraft, educating myself on what I needed to do technically, engineering-wise, aerodynamically, so that I could be just as smart as the people that I had to deal with. So I always had to work really hard to do that. But as things have happened, I negotiated with the Libyan delegation on the Pan Am bombing, along with a group of lawyers from New York and Washington. I was the Midwest representative because the flight was to go on from London to New York and then on to Detroit. And so there were a lot of Midwesterners on the plane. Represented a lot of them. We had to go through training how to negotiate, how to deal with, how to not insult, how not to cross over into areas of discussion inadvertently that would be insulting in a group of Islamic people. The sessions that we actually did with the negotiating team were very tough, and we met with young Gaddafi a couple times in London. We had to be taken by blacked out taxi cabs to his home, someplace in Knightsbridge, I don't know where, in a bunker deep underneath a house. So I had those kind of experiences. He had bodyguards. He had pretty rough and tumble people around. You just do your job, and you try not to let the circumstances and the people around you influence you or intimidate you. If you just do your job, chances are it's going to be okay. I have to admit, I placed a lot of those things before the Lord, and maybe this is an unusual circumstance, but I never worried about it. I always believed that God would take care of me. All I had to do was represent my people well and be honest. And I think over time, as other aviation attorneys in the United States, which is a very small fraternity, as they got to know me, why I was trusted. At the end of the Pan Am case, the worst thing that happened to me was the senior partner in my firm. I came home bearing news that they were going to pay the families $10 million apiece times 270, which is $2.7 billion. He asked me to cheat some of our referring attorneys because they never expected this kind of money and they hadn't done much work. And it was my handshake that had sealed the deals to get the business. So when I refused, he suggested that I had been subordinate and fired me on the spot. So I had to deal with negotiating with a terrorist, traveling across the ocean many times because Libyans couldn't come to the United States back then, and we could not go there. So we met in London and Paris. And then when it was all over for all the hard work I had done, that was the reward that I received, which was to be cut loose. But that was okay, because God had some things for me to do in that period when I was in between jobs that were rough and needed to be addressed. And I needed the time to do it, and so I just did it. It took on a little bit, twice it's taken on a little bit more dangerous aspect, but I have to tell you, in neither case did I really feel threatened as much as others may have wished me to feel. The Egypt Air 990 case had to be tried in Cairo because many of the people on the plane had family members who were on no-fly lists, and they couldn't come to the United States. The case was in the Eastern District of New York. The judge appointed a special master and sent us to Cairo to try to resolve the case. And we weathered several open riots among the clients and a lot of bad newspaper articles written by family members who didn't believe that the pilot would commit suicide. They believed that the evil American Boeing aircraft had caused the accident, and this was the United States just trying to force its opinion on these people. So that got to be dicey a couple times. Also very rewarding in the end, but it was quite unusual. But really the big one was in 2014, there was an airliner that crashed in the Donbas, which is in the news today. Malaysian Airlines Flight 17. It was shot down by a Russian Buk, that unit which had driven across from Kursk into the eastern portion of Ukraine. It parked itself right on the main commercial aircraft corridor between Europe and Southeast Asia. It parked there until a plane came along, and then it shot it down, and that was our airplane. I was, at the time, I was working for a law firm in Sydney, Australia, and there were a lot of Australians on the plane, and they found out that I was working there and that I had this history with Pan Am, and I had a lot of cases all of a sudden. I ended up bringing them back to the United States because the Australians didn't have the means of dealing with that large a case in their legal system. And so we brought it back here. And not long after I came back, I went into my office on Christmas Day. My wife is a registered nurse, and she works on holidays. I had nothing to do. Kids weren't coming for a while. I went to my office, and my office had been ransacked, and Vladimir Putin's picture had been left on my desk. That was probably the most serious. But I got to say, that didn't. Yeah, I moved my office, and I made low profile. And because I was working in Romania at that time, I was going back and forth to Bucharest. And when I would take people with me from my home who volunteered and came and worked in camps and things like that with the ministry, I would travel on different airplanes from the rest of them, just out of caution. It wasn't as much that I really was concerned, but I didn't want them to worry that by being with me they could be exposed to something like that. They did quite a few podcasts and some political cartoons that were quite creative about me at the time. But I believe that he has gotten involved in more serious matters now, and he probably doesn't think twice about me anymore. So I really didn't spend a whole lot of time wondering about it. Plus the FBI had come to my house and told me that they had my back, which of course solved all my problems. Even though I had no idea how they would do that. But yeah, you get mixed up with things that have death, power, and money, and you're going to experience some problems.
What's amazing is that you were able to maintain that peace that surpasses understanding that the Bible talks about, even in the midst of that type of threat. That was very scary for any normal person to be in that type of situation. But we'll take a short break, then we'll come back and we'll continue talking about the mission and what you're actually doing in Romania and how you're serving the people over there through the mission that you've been part of for many years. We'll take this short break. We'll come right back.
That'll be great. Good.
Revenim după această scurtă pauză. We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching RTN Chicago. This faith-based programming is possible through donations from viewers like you.
We're back in the studio. I'm grateful to have attorney Jerry Skinner with us today. This program, as you can see, is in English, and in this segment we're going to talk about the RHM role, the mission in Romania and Constanța. How did this come about? I understand that, you know, a little bit from the first segment that you had a passion to help the children that you've met a while back when you visited Romania, but to invest and to be active there for almost 30 years, it does require a lot of resources, time, energy, and money.
Yes, great deal of, first of all, time, because what you're doing is building personal relationships, and you really don't get around to spending money until you have people in a group. Our goal is always to build community, and that required investment not only of time but some money, because you need resources, you need materials, things that they can utilize to build a ministry around. And so, yeah, it has been, it used to be almost constant. I would be there, and then I'd come home and I'd spend all my free time fundraising. And I got other people involved. 4 of us, 4 individuals in Cincinnati, actually chose to start a corporation to do this. But it was maybe, we started in '98, and in 2004, we purchased this first small building, so we had a location that people could come to. That kind of changed our fundraising also. We've been doing the typical event type fundraising, and we began to make contacts with individuals and talked to them about what we were doing. We were careful who we selected, obviously people who we believed would have a heart for us. And we never really did go back to the frantic activity type fundraising that we started out with. I have to say that those that have been with me all this time, we learned from our experiences, and we learned what it meant to be growing up in Romania with a disability, to be a family member. We thought we had some ideas what they needed, and we talked to people and we asked them. And as time went on, we grew in facilities, in resources, in personnel, because we have quite a few volunteers at this point in time. But we employed, we always have employed, an administrator, a medical doctor, has medical director, a social worker, a counselor. Those are the professionals we've always employed. And then we had some employees, we learned the Romanian way is to have a bookkeeper and then have somebody who watches over the bookkeeper. So we had 2 employees we had to have, and since then we have been accumulating mostly volunteers. A couple years ago we lost our social worker. He had family in Germany and had family needs to go address, and they moved out of Romania. God brought us a wonderful new graduate from Ovidiu University, and she's working on her master's in social work, and she's computer educated and social media wise, and all of a sudden we had a live presence every day, something new posted from our ministry on Facebook and other places. I'd never been a member of Facebook. I joined just so I could keep up with her. And so God has provided as we went along, the people that have filled in, and he's been patient and educated us. And it's amazing how my perspective on Romania has changed. My wife and I both say if we had to leave the United States, which nobody has to at this point in time, but if I had to leave the United States, I would go there because I've got so many friends there. I've got familiarity. I know how to get from A to B in Romania. I know how to protect my passport and watch my wallet and all the things that you need to do when you're learning a new place. And I'm very comfortable when I go over there.
Tell us about the mission. In your description online, it says Romanian Handicapped Ministries, RHM, is a non-profit evangelical Christian ministry serving young people with mental and physical disabilities and other caretakers in the port city of Constanța, Romania since 1998. We are based in Milford, Ohio, USA. This is from your website.
Yes.
So tell us, actually, you have quite a few activities over there. Share with us what they are.
We do. We have a facility that I described earlier. We've since expanded it twice. We're looking to expand it again. We want to create space for a physical therapy program. But what we decided they really needed, I mean, it's obvious they need medical care, they need medicines, they need insurance coverage, they need referrals to various specialists from time to time. But what they really needed was community, and community built around faith in Christ. So we've always had at least one person on our staff who is very evangelistic, and we look to hire that person. And we've always invited local pastors to come and go into the work. And we make the day center open every day, except Christmas week and the month of August, because everybody leaves in August, Romania, and so it's open every day. Different groups of kids come in. We don't often have all of them in anymore. We used to be close to 40 children that we took care of at a time. After the pandemic, we lost a few. And then when we began to reorganize, we're in the mid-20s right now. but anyone who comes in and says they would like to join our group, we welcome them, we welcome their family, we get to know them, we invite them in to the activities, which can be going out to the cultural house in Constanza that the city provides activities for them to do. It can be going to Special Olympics, it can be going out into the country for picnics every once in a while, it can be going to a local church, which is a home church, but which also has a coffee house. And they put on parties for kids and give them milkshakes and coffee drinks and stuff like that. We keep them together in as many arenas as possible because they begin to grow together. And I think the greatest thing this has accomplished over all this time is that we have a core group and an outside group that's growing, but they have become community. We take great pride in the United States that we have mothers who are soccer moms and fathers who are baseball dads, and they take care of their kids and everything. Well, the entire family is invited into RHM to be part of the community, and they now help each other, whereas before they were all strangers. Now if someone can't make it to the day center on a certain day because mom and dad have maybe medical appointments, somebody else will go get them and bring them in. So we started with, I think there were 8 when we started, and we grew up to as large as 36. But along the way, the core group has gelled into community, into a big family. And our activities provide for medical needs, for medicines, for physical therapy, for all those things. But more than anything else, they provide them opportunities to be together. And now we have two guys that are buddies, a couple of girls that fix each other's hair, and you notice those things beginning, and they're not even noticeable, and you don't give any thought to them here in the United States, because that's the way kids are. But they never had a chance to grow up and be kids like that. In our program, our members have become community. And always in our efforts to build community, we include the gospel message. We remind them about how the love of Christ is displayed to each other and how he displayed it to us. We've even gone as far as to teach them that Jesus really understands how they feel when they can't get up and move like other people, when they can't do things like other people. Because after all, for a very brief time, he was nailed to the cross. And he physically was limited. He couldn't move. He came to earth and limited himself, but then he allowed himself to be crucified, obviously for our sins, but during that time period, he would be able to relate to anybody who had a physical deficit because he was unable to do anything. And that really moves them. They appreciate that.
That's amazing. A lot of times in Romania, the handicapped children, they are isolated. And they're kind of living on their own, and in families have limited resources because the needs are so great. And you're creating community and you're giving them opportunities to spend time together and do things together, which is amazing, and introduce them to the gospel, the good news, which is the ultimate benefit, because eternity is offered in a way that is acceptable and open and available to them. Maybe some of them have not been exposed to the gospel or the care that you're providing. So that kind of love may be something different and new. So to do all this, it does require, you mentioned you have a staff and you have volunteers, and you know, there is food and there is supplies and there is costs involved. How do you manage the financial side of things?
We have several events during the year that produce a good return. Our budget runs about $100,000 a year, maybe 125. It varies from year to year. Most of those are small gifts. I know a family that has given us $25 a month for almost 30 years. And they don't have much, but they never miss. We also go to corporations. We've had some nice gifts from corporations that deal with products such as are frequently used by people with disabilities. Motivation SRL over in Romania. Here in the United States, there's several corporations that have donated to us. But we basically have a core of about 100, maybe a little more than that, 100 people who give significantly all the time. And we do have events where we get people to come in that will bring in crowds, and once we get someone to see what we're doing here in the U.S., once people see, and then if they choose to go on one of our summer trips and work in a summer camp, which we'll put on, then they support us forever, because to go and to experience it is a much different experience. But those areas of little gifts, some larger gifts from corporations, a couple events with special people, such as Jen Bricker, who's going to be with us over in Romania, they attract quite a bit of attention, and I have this idea in my heart that we've decided we need to consciously, we always let God provide whatever He provided, and whatever we had we used, but we're trying to set a budget and reach a certain level, because we would like very much to have more space for more kids, grow the program. And one of the things I hope to accomplish with our events in Romania is convincing the Romanian government that they don't have to do everything the way they always have, that we can in our program provide for more than 36, which is kind of the top end. They don't believe you can care for that many. But if they don't all come in every day, and they're in different groups, and they have different relationships within those groups, and we've got a dedicated staff, why we can help more. We can't help everybody, but we can help more.
Well, that's the idea, is trying to serve as many as possible, and be a blessing to as many people that have special needs. These are a very special ministry. We will take a short break again, but when we come back, I'd like to talk about the Step Up 2025 conference that is coming up. Share with us a little bit more about that, what's happening there, what's the purpose of this conference. I know that your vision is to serve more and to expand, but other than that, how you do that is the big question.
That's true.
So we'll take a short break. We'll come right back.
Okay.
We'll be right back in a few seconds.
Thank you for watching RTN Chicago. This faith-based programming is possible through donations from viewers like you.
We're back in the studio with attorney Jerry Skinner from the RHM.ro Foundation in Romania, serving the Romanian Handicapped in the Constanța area. There is a conference coming up. Tell us about that.
Our conference is called Step Up 2005. The idea behind that is that it used to be that people with disabilities in Romania were referred to as irrecoverable. That was one word, and it meant to imply there's nothing you can do for them. So with resources so limited, why bother? That's why many children were put in the streets, left at hospitals at birth if they had any defects at all, and they were just kind of tossed away. But we need to encourage Romanians. Many of our kids could, and I call them all kids. They're not kids anymore, even though they call me Poppy now because I've gotten old. But many of our kids, given a chance, given an opportunity, and giving a hand up from somebody can give them a much more meaningful life. And that's what we want to encourage Romanians, Romanian government, Romanian agencies that deal with them. Don't look at them as irrecoverable any longer, because they still do to a large extent. We need their assistance. We need them to give opportunities to them. We need them to provide them with the basics so that they can have a life that has meaning and dignity. Many of our kids have grown enormously, and they want to do things beyond what Romania will allow them. By having this conference there, and by featuring the people that we're going to feature in Step Up 2025, that should be an encouragement. We're inviting corporations, we're inviting government. The Senate is sponsoring us and providing us with a room. We're inviting individuals and churches. We're inviting large churches to bring as many people as they can, because who better than to help people step up than people who are dedicated to Christ to begin with. So that's the program that we present is going to feature individuals that I have met over time. Jennifer and Dominic Bricker Bauer, they're married now, and they met, and Jen was born in a hospital and abandoned by her parents in the hospital with no name, because she was born with no legs at all. And she was adopted by a Christian pastor in the middle of Illinois, as remote as you can get and still be in Illinois. And one of the first things they got for her when they adopted her was a trampoline. And they put her on the trampoline and told her, you can do anything. The only rule in this house is you can do anything you want to, but all the things you want to do, you got to try at least once. You can't just say you won't do it. Well, she's amazing, remarkable, dynamic woman, and she does things with her arms that most of us couldn't do fully able to. We couldn't do it. And so she has appeared for us several times and helped us. And she's married to Dominic Bauer, who's an Austrian, who saw her perform, who saw her go the entire length of the gym, flipping on just her hands over and over and over again, and decided he wanted to get to know her, and then they fell in love, and now there's Jennifer and Dominic and Malachi, who's one of the cutest little guys. He's 100% Romanian. You can just look at him, you know he's Romanian. But they're going to be there at this conference. We have one of Romania's better known Paralympic athletes, Ciprian Anton, who was a wheelchair tennis champion. And he's going to be there, and Jen is going to present a videotape of her performance. She's not going to perform because we discovered that getting the equipment we needed for her to perform was so difficult in Romania that it was going to take up time, which would be better spent with the video of her performance and then an opportunity for questions and answers. Same probably, and I don't know entirely who's going to come with Ciprian, but he's going to get more of his Paralympic friends to come, and they will have the central segment. And then the last segment, maybe the most incredible of all, a young man by the name of Chris Cook, and he's from Calgary, just outside Calgary. He owns a wheat farm, and he grows and harvests wheat and works on all the machinery and climbs up the side of a columbine and gets in and harvests the wheat when the time comes. All pretty biblical pictures, but all the more remarkable because all of his machinery are designed to be operated by someone who has one flipper instead of a leg or feet on their lower body, and on the right side of their upper body he has a flipper, but he doesn't have an arm. He has no limbs other than these flippers. And he farms, he gives inspirational speeches, he's got a small, short, the kids who roll around all the time on rollerboards think they're so good. That's how he gets around. He's got a small board, and he's finished 17 marathons, including he's going to run the Chicago Marathon this year. And wow. He's amazing. He's got a tremendous sense of humor. He doesn't consider himself disabled. Neither does Jennifer Bricker. If you ask her, wouldn't you like to have legs? She said, no, I wouldn't have had the incredible life I've had if I had legs. Look at everything it's moved me to. So we want them to go and inspire people, because in each case, somebody stood up and helped them move to the next level. Ciprian Anton, somebody came by and said, you can't just sit here. You're an athlete. Let's play tennis. I can't play tennis. Yes, you can. Somebody stepped up and moved him to do that. That's what the theme of this is going to be. Romania, society, government, individuals, corporations, help these people because they can do remarkable things and they can be valuable to you, and it certainly is well overdue because the fallout of Ceausescu lasted a long time in people's attitudes and ideas. And so the conference is going to be held twice, October 9th in Bucharest in the Parliamentary Palace, in the Madrigal Room, which is where they have musical performances because it's big and it has tremendous acoustics. And then it's going to be held in Constanța, which is where we are based in Romania. It's going to be held in the Jean Constantine Theater, which is dedicated to children and children's education through movies and other multimedia type approaches. So that once on the 9th, once on the 14th, and then we're going to get as many people as we can. We're inviting whole churches, we're inviting other ministries, a lot of corporations, and been very well received by the corporations that I just walked into and said, hey, I'm here, talk to me about this, this is important to us, I want to talk to you because this is a large segment of your population, of your customers. Johnson & Johnson, I went and talked to them, they provide medical materials that are very important. It's amazing how well received we were.
Are these corporations from Romania or from the United States?
Both. I mentioned Motivation, which is a Romanian corporation, and then the corporations that we targeted, and Kaufland, the supermarket chain. We targeted them because they get involved with a lot of different groups, but they haven't been involved with a Christian group, so we decided we would go after them too. But many of the American corporations, PepsiCo, HP, Adobe's already agreed to support us, and they became the focus of our fundraising efforts because we felt that even though we had helped grow the ministry, it was time for the ministry to really become Romanian. I have some individuals in mind that I'm hoping will step up for me when the time comes, and maybe before the time comes, because the opportunities in Romania are actually better now for fundraising for my people than they are here in the United States. They just had fiscal and tax law changes in Romania that give corporations the ability to designate to a sponsored not-for-profit a certain percentage of their paid taxes. And they would all rather give it to us that we've talked to than give it to the government. And it doesn't cost them any more than they've already paid the government. And that's pretty unique, and whoever came up with that idea deserves a lot of credit. I wish that was true here. But so we have a number of American corporations, but we have a number of Romanian corporations, and we have a lot of individuals. I'm hoping that Senator Benoni Ardalan is our individual sponsor, and he's worked hard and he's inviting a lot of his friends from the Senate. He did not run for re-election in the recent election that was so controversial, but he still stands by us, so that's good.
Yeah, I know Benoni. He's a good man. He's a good man of God. He's very active, even though he's not in office, doing different things.
Yes,
and I'm glad to hear that he agreed to partner with you. Now, as we approach the end of this program, for those that would like to find out more about how they can plug with your organization in one way or another, maybe as a sponsor, maybe as a beneficiary, maybe somebody has a situation or a person that needs your services, how can they do that?
Well, first of all, we're obviously online. Romanian Handicapped.com is our website address, RomanianHandicapped.com. We named the ministry, and we haven't really changed the name, but we named them back when it was acceptable to use the word handicapped. we went through a time period where that became less acceptable. But as we are in Romania, we basically go by rhm.ro. If you go to our website, you can see the history of both organizations. You can contact points, and we provide opportunities for you to partner with us, to contact us. We've had people go with us on trips over there to see it. And we pretty much know once somebody goes over and sees what we deal with and meets the people, they're going to be a supporter. But you can get information online. We're also on Facebook. Daily there's a new post that shows some really interesting and very warm and human approaches to all of our kids, and follows them home sometimes and gives you an idea of what's going on. They can contact me personally. If you plug in Jerry Skinner on Google, you will find that this crazy person who's been chasing airplane crashes now is associated with this, and I will come up along with a few other Jerry Skinners, but the differences between them and me will be obvious. And we are in Constanța every day, and if you're in Romania and you want to come and see what we do, our facility is always open to people coming and visiting. So we're online. We have events around. We have events in Cincinnati quite frequently because most of the people that have gone or go live here.
We will post this information, so anyone interested, they will have access. They can contact you directly, and I appreciate your time today, and for sharing about God's mission for the least of these, as Jesus at one point refers to them. I encourage everyone watching to go on the website. It's romanianhandicapped.com, and get familiar. And if you are visiting Romania, stop by and visit them. And I also encourage everyone who's watching our programs and they watch this mission work to say a prayer and to get involved. God will guide you and will use you and give you an opportunity to be part of an organization, of a ministry, or an organization that is doing great work for people that need it the most. Jerry, thanks again.
Thank you for having me, Petru.
God bless you.
Thank you.
You're doing great work for God's glory. And for the rest of you, I'll see you next time on Face to Face. God bless you.